Welcome back, and what in the ripple is going on here? Have the collapses already started? Well, we're going to be discussing the Linkto scandal that's going on right now in the XRP community as the Bitcoin conference is over, and XRP had a conference as well in Las Vegas, and more is coming out on what happened with this potential collapse of Linkto. And we're going to be discussing that among many other topics, really kind of geared towards what I've been talking about on this channel for a while, right? That we are headed into the final phase of the bull market and that collapses have already begun. This already began in 2024 when we started to see all of the celebrities piling into the meme coins. And I mean, it was like one after another. They just kept rug pulling, all of them. All of the celebrity coins, they all launched on Solana. And since then, so Solana price has not recovered. The ecosystem has not developed anything or released anything groundbreaking, and the community is still super bullish. But these are potential indicators that we're at the end of the cycle. It doesn't mean it's over just yet, but we are at the end stages. And in today's video, we're going to be exploring what exactly does that mean? Why am I saying this? Because I'm not just basing this on my own opinion. I'm basing this on the research that I'm doing in the financial markets every single day to understand where I need to position my portfolio and really kind of discussing that on the channel for all of you to make good decisions in your portfolio. Don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up. We upload every single day on this channel to bring you the latest happening in the financial world. So hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications. If you want to help support, click the join button to become a channel member for as little as $1.99 a month. But if you can't afford that or just don't want to pay, at least subscribe and give the video a thumbs up. Let's get right into today's topic. We're going to be starting right here with some recent comments from JP Morgan's CEO, Jamie Dimon, about what's going on in the markets. So just recently, Jamie Dimon said it's going to happen, warning of cracks in the bond market. Now, we've talked about this before. If you understand the macro environment of the financial ecosystem, the bond market, the debt market, this determines what is going on in the rest of the markets, stock market, crypto markets, housing markets, etc. We see that because the rates to borrow, which is effectively debt, are higher than most people want. And we are seeing this battle between the economy and what the Federal Reserve wants to do. But at the end of the day, the bond market is holding up the rest of the financial ecosystem. And so if the bond market does crack, and this, let me say, I'm saying if. Jamie Dimon is saying it is going to happen. I'm saying if it does happen, we could see mass liquidations and mass dropping in the valuations of pretty much all assets. Because what will happen is there'll be margin calls. And the big traders, the firms that have billions and billions of dollars in some of these investments in the stock market and that they consider quote unquote safer investments, these are going to potentially drop. And if they're on leverage, where are they going to get the money? They're going to have to start selling other assets to meet those margin calls before they get liquidated and go bankrupt. That is a risk because in those situations, you have cascading liquidations in the traditional markets. And what these firms are going to do is they're going to start selling off their crypto. Now, you may be saying, well, a lot of companies don't even own crypto. Well, that is true. But a lot of companies own MicroStrategy. And a lot of companies own Bitcoin and crypto ETFs. And so the same thing that we saw happening in the last cycle, where all of these companies, they weren't investing in Coinbase, right, a regulated crypto exchange. They were investing in FTX. Retirement funds and pension funds were doing this during the last cycle. And then they lost everything. And that was just one market. That was just one investment. Imagine the whole portfolio dropping 10, 20, 30, 40% overnight because of fear about where the debt market is and where it's headed. Now, let's listen to what Jamie Dimon said. He was interviewed at the Reagan National Economic Forum this past week. He asked if he thought the so-called bond vigilantes that sell U.S. treasuries due to worries about growing deficits have returned, and Dimon said, yeah. The bank executive pointed to trillions of dollars in borrowing and spending in the wake of the pandemic, which he described as huge sums of money, and we don't really know the full effect of that. He said, "You're going to see a crack in the bond market. It is going to happen. And I tell this to my regulators, some of you who are in this room." He said, "I'm telling you, it's going to happen and you're going to panic." He said, "I'm not going to panic. We'll be fine," meaning JP Morgan, and probably him personally as well. He said, "We'll probably make more money." And then some of my friends will tell me, "We like crises because it's good for JP Morgan Chase." Not really. And so he's saying, like, JP Morgan's going to be fine because they're hedged. They have both ends. They have the market goes up, they're going to make money. The market goes down, they're going to make money. And if he believes that this is going to happen based on the current economic conditions, and I would imagine some of this does have to do with where the Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates. And so yet the rate of borrowing is there, and plus all the deficits that we see. And by the way, like, we know there's going to be even more, right? Because Elon's exiting Doge. The It doesn't seem like we're going to see systematic changes in government efficiency or less spending, and we're just going to have to increase productivity to get the deficit fixed. I guess you could call it that. And so people don't want the debt, right? And so this is where the Federal Reserve has to become the buyer and lender of last resort, which they will be. And I would agree with Jamie Dimon. If this does happen, right, if there is a crack in the bond market, I hope there's not, because this is going to create a lot of issues for a lot of people around the world. But I want you guys to understand, like, if this does happen, and Jamie Dimon is saying it's going to happen, it's not like an if, it's a when. And he's saying, like, they're going to panic. And so during panic, right, you see massive drops in the market, and then they're trying to prop it back up. So then you'll see that's the volatility that indicates that the market is rotating, either from a bear to bull or bull to bear or something else. And a lot of people are going to say, well, we're going to be rotating into a bull market. Well, we're already in a bull market, guys. I mean, just look at the charts, zoom it out. Even in crypto, a lot of people still don't believe that we're in a bull market. It's, guys, the bottom of the bull market, or the bear market, I should say, was $15,000. We're now 8x higher than that in Bitcoin. There's going to be a lot of people say, but Cryptoviser, my coin isn't doing that well. Well, your coin is not the market, right? I'm looking at the macro. I'm looking at the market itself. And I think that that's what Jamie Dimon is looking at as well. Saylor's Bitcoin buying strategy is exploding globally, but Wall Street is skeptical. We've heard this, right? GameStop just bought Bitcoin and their stock price went down. Meta, Facebook, their shareholders voted 99% no to buying Bitcoin. And so I think that here's the deal, guys. At this point where we are in the middle of 2025, if a company was going to buy Bitcoin or start putting it on their balance sheet, they would have already started the conversation. They would have already started maybe open communication with their shareholders about this. It's not like one day 15 companies are just going to come out and say, oh, we're buying Bitcoin. And how do I know this? Well, no companies have really done this besides GameStop. Trump Media, yeah, but they're getting into Bitcoin, into like Bitcoin companies, generally speaking. They're liquidating other investments and moving it into decentralized finance. We know that. What else? People are going to say Nakamoto, 21, all these companies that are popping up. But guys, these are all the Bitcoin maxis. They're all within the Michael Saylor, orbit already. It's not like Amazon is doing this or Apple is doing this or, Microsoft or Google. None of these companies are doing this. And I think it goes into my thesis. They will eventually. But right now, they're waiting to see what happens with Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy. Because remember, he keeps buying more and more and more. And he just bought more in June. But guys, look at this. The average cost keeps going up. So they're at $70,000 DCA, dollar cost average, for their entire purchase. There is a very large possibility, very large, that in a bear market or in a market rotation, or if the bond market breaks or something else happens, an event that would affect the financial markets. That probably will happen. Like Jamie Dimon is saying, if that does happen, this could bring the price of Bitcoin down substantially overnight. Could bring the price of MicroStrategy down substantially overnight. Overnight. I mean, maybe not literally overnight, but very, very short period of time. This is what most people fail to realize. They're like, but Cryptoviser, we're not at the end of the bull market. It's like, yeah, but we can be at the end of the bull market very, very rapidly. So rapidly that if you don't have a plan, you're not going to be able to sell your position because you're going to be so lost in the, oh my God, it's going higher, it's going higher, it's going higher. And so what happens if we go under $70,000? What happens to MicroStrategy then? People are saying, well, they're going to be fine. They don't have to pay their debt back for a few years. Yeah, I get that. But we don't know they're going to be fine. We don't know that the shareholders are not going to say, you need to sell some of this Bitcoin off to bring that dollar cost average down. Maybe they'll keep buying more. Maybe their stock price will go down. Maybe the premium of their stock price to the Bitcoin will go down. There's so many different possibilities that it seems like the market is not really taken into account, which again makes me realize we are in the end stage of the bull market. And we have more about this coming up in just a minute. We also have to remember that, they're starting to move into Ethereum. And I do think that the Bitcoin play, while it may not be over for the cycle, right? I mean, I don't know how much higher we're going to go. There's some people saying 400,000, 300,000. I don't know. I've been saying since the bear market that I actually changed my thesis. I used to think in the last bull market that this cycle we would be at about $250 to $300,000. But during the bear market, I revised that prediction to about $150,000 being the peak of this cycle. And the more people who say that's not going to happen, we're going to go way higher than that. I'm like, based on what? Michael Saylor's buying literally billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin weekly or monthly, I should say. All these other companies that are acquiring Bitcoin very rapidly as well. And what has happened to the price of Bitcoin? It has gone up, but how are we going to get to $150,000, $200,000? We have to find the liquidity. Where is the liquidity coming from? And this is why Michael Saylor not releasing the proof of reserves from MicroStrategy is a huge concern. Because for me, I don't understand the math where all of this liquidity of Bitcoin is coming from, right? It's not like FTX is liquidating billions of dollars of Bitcoin, but even if they were, Michael Saylor has right now about $58 billion of Bitcoin. FTX only had about, I think, $8 billion total customer assets. So even if half of that was Bitcoin, that's $4 billion. Even at an 8x, it's $48 billion. I guess it could be some of that. But I don't think they had 580,000 Bitcoin. But where is the liquidity coming from? Can't figure that out. Either way, I'm digressing from the conversation, which is about the move into altcoins. And alt season may be around the corner. We're starting to see now companies moving into raising money. Sports betting platform called SharpLink. They're now moving into Ethereum Treasury. We see the stock price go up from $2 to $80. It literally 40x'd in like a week. Now it's come down fairly substantially, and I would imagine it's probably going to come down a little bit more. But I want to remind you, they're raising $1 billion to buy Bitcoin. The current market cap is about $40 million. It's actually a little bit higher than this because I think that for them to get buy the platform, I think they had to issue more shares to the investors or something like that. So I don't think that has reflected in the market cap just yet. But even at a $200 million market cap, if they're going to raise $1 billion to buy Ethereum, and Ethereum has not even reached all-time record highs, if it does, this could be a very interesting stock to keep an eye on. And we are seeing the transition from Bitcoin into alts now. And the narrative is starting to pick up. And I'm about to show you a video of Vitalik. And usually when Vitalik starts to talk during the cycle, if you've been following me since the previous cycle, when he starts to come out and start talking, kind of indicates we're towards the end of the cycle. I'll explain in a minute. But before we get to the Vitalik video, Ethereum is leading with $286 million in weekly crypto fund inflows, with the strongest run since 2024, according to CoinShares. And so we're seeing a lot of inflows into the altcoin ecosystem now. At the beginning of the year, we were seeing a big outflow. Kind of the whole market kind of dropped and moved that way. And then Bitcoin started to pick up. And now I think that we're kind of moving into altcoin season. But before I show you some of the data that shows that we may be moving into altcoin season, which would also indicate we're in the final stage of the bull market, Vitalik Buterin says that Ethereum will scale 10x in 1 year and then take a breather for the next leap. Let's listen to what he says, founder of Ethereum.
How fast should we see a lot of these changes to the L1 that have been talked about in the last couple of months?
Yeah, okay.
And by the way, layer one, L1 is layer one. It's the Ethereum layer, base layer. We hear a lot about layer twos like Polygon that scale Ethereum, but they really want to enhance the capabilities of the base layer. Because again, as the base layer continues to grow and get better and more efficient, so do the layer twos and the entire effective financial ecosystem of DeFi.
So my view is like generally, I think we should scale L1 by about 10x over the next year and a bit, based on delayed.
Why the in a bit? Why not be more ambitious here?
No, year would be great.
Okay.
But based on like basically delayed execution, block level access lists, networking level improvements, distributed history storage, like the stuff that we already talked about. And then I think at that point it would be a good time to like basically take a breather and like have a period to verify that we're actually doing okay on decentralization properties. Possibly even like do a fork and like focus on kind of like,
That's a controversial comment. Hold on.
Like
say that one more time, please.
Yeah. Take a breather, verify that we're fine on the decentralization properties, and like possibly do a fork to tie up loose ends in terms of.
Oh, you mean a hard fork, not create a second chain?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Versus soft forks.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean tie up loose ends on like account abstraction, censorship resistance, possibly like VM improvements, simplify the protocol, switch to SSZ, like stuff that doesn't kind of like threaten decentralization, and at the same time we become more confident, and then. Once ZK VMs like really become mature enough that we can rely on them, then like go, even beyond that.
So this is what you're hearing from Vitalik, right? And we haven't really heard from Vitalik that much this cycle. But around this time, 4 years ago, in 2021, Vitalik was again being interviewed at a similar type of conference, and he said, the bubbles have already bursted in crypto. And I didn't realize what that actually meant, but that meant that the first bump that we saw in crypto in the beginning of 2021, that was effectively the top of the market. We saw a little bit of a jump towards the end of the year with a lot of cryptos around August and September for the altcoins, and then November for the major coins. But really, the market cycle was done after that major pump at the beginning of 2021, as all the liquidity from the pandemic assistance was kind of flooding the markets. Now, we're in a different cycle this year, guys. I mean, we're a completely different cycle. And a lot of people are not realizing this. A lot of people keep saying, but in 2021, this happened. In 2020, this happened. It's like, well, we're 5 years later. Anyway, Leshka, who is an Ethereum as she calls herself, DGen. She says the last altcoin season will start this summer. Every market indicator shows that it's going to be huge. Altcoin market cap will soar from $250 billion to trillions in just a couple of months. Here's what the market data says and how this person is going to sell the peak. And so let's kind of review what Leshka believes is going to be happening in the last alt season. Now, I don't know whether she thinks it's the last one forever or just for this cycle, but we're going to go with this cycle for now. She said, I've been in crypto for 5 years, weathered 3 cycles, secured a good bag along the way. Every major top came with obvious warning signs if you were paying attention. Now, those red flags are nowhere to be seen. What is the translation? The most explosive alt season is still on the horizon, according to Leshka. She says, I recently shared a thread briefly explaining why this alt season could be the last. Here, I will explain my point of view in detail and also outline several strategies to help you secure your profits with max return. And so we did talk about her other posting about where we are in the cycle, right? When we're looking at the market psychology. And this is it right here. And she believes that the euphoric top of the market is going to be occurring in July. And effectively, the double top or end of the top will happen in August. And then we'll be going down from there, as you can see from this chart. Covered that in recent videos. I definitely recommend watching those. And also, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and also hit the subscribe button. That way, you never miss a new video. We upload every single day. Anyway, she says the current fear and greed index sits at 64, leaning greedy, but far from extreme. Back in 2021 peak, it soared to 95. We're not in euphoria yet, she says, which means we're still early. The alt season index is currently at 25. Anything under 50 signals Bitcoin is still soaking up most of the spotlight. In 2021, this index blasted past 90 before altcoins truly took off. That ignition point, we haven't even hit it yet. Now, again, notice she's only been through one full cycle, right? 3 cycles since 2020 to 2021. We've been here on this channel since 2018 and been in the crypto market since 2017. Now, I want you guys to understand, every cycle is different. Yes, we can look for these indicators, but that doesn't mean that that indicator will hit. As she is explaining here, Google search trends for crypto and Bitcoin are still flatlined. In 2021, interest spiked after prices peaked. Today, nobody cares. That's your green light. Get positioned before the crowd wakes up. And some of this is true, right? Because there will be some retail jumping in, but that's not really what's pushing the market higher to trillions of dollars. This is the back end integration of crypto into the markets, like adding Bitcoin ETFs to retirement portfolios and 401ks and mutual funds and the S&P 500. So if MicroStrategy enters the S&P 500 or Coinbase entered the S&P 500, they have crypto in their balance sheet. And so it's an indirect investment in crypto. I mean, it is kind of direct, but it's indirect, and it's going to be happening over the course of time, consistently. And that's what you want to see, because that's really the transition from TradFi, traditional finance, to decentralized finance, which is going to take quite a bit of time. But we're starting to see those transition points. And so the more we see the transition points, the more we can identify, we're going there. But I don't think that this cycle is really the retail cycle like it's been the last 2. I think that a lot of retail are in the markets, but I think that they're being wrecked by the billionaires stating extended cycle, buy MicroStrategy versus the Bitcoin underlying, right? And so Leshka says mainstream FOMO hasn't even started. In 2021, crypto was unavoidable. Splash across TV, trending on TikTok, turned into memes. Now, total silence. That silence is a signal, she says. Bitcoin isn't in a parabolic blow-off. Not even close. It's climbing steadily, not spiking. True market tops come with the vertical candles and unsustainable euphoria. That kind of move, she says, is still ahead of us. I don't necessarily agree, guys, because here's the deal. Listen, I do hope we have blow off top, but the thing is, I explained to you when the Bitcoin ETFs, when Wall Street got involved, it was effectively over. And this is why Wall Street got involved. They don't want the markets to be volatile like that. And so they are controlling the markets, period. End. That's what they're doing. We saw this. This was confirmed in the beginning of 2025 because in the middle to end of January into February, MicroStrategy was buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin. And then what did we see happening with the ETFs? They were selling billions and billions of dollars. And so they were offsetting the purchasing with the sales because there wasn't enough liquidity in the system. And so that would have caused the market to spike up. And if you look at the market cycles, the beginning of 2021, the first 3 months, we saw parabolic moves in a lot of cryptos. I don't think that we saw that this year. I think that was, we saw November, December moving higher, even into January. But I think January into February, we saw that switch because Wall Street was selling off. They were controlling the market, keeping the volatility to a minimum. And so I don't know that we're ever going to see these parabolic blow-off tops like we previously have seen. Because keep in mind, I don't think that the regulators want that, because this is when people in the euphoric mode of the cycle, people lose all their money because they're buying at the top of the market. And then they lose everything, and then they don't know what to do, right? And then Leshka says, no meme coin frenzy yet. In 2021, Doge, Sheeb, and SafeMoon lit the market on fire. Right now, we're still in the calm before the chaos. But she's expecting like a guaranteed meme coin season. We did have a meme coin season. It was called Solana. That was in January. That was in December. Just because Doge and Shiba and SafeMoon didn't move this cycle doesn't mean we didn't have a meme coin season. What were all the celebrity coins? They were meme coins. And so again, people are looking for the exact same things to happen with the exact same coins from last cycle. And that's just not what we're seeing, because a lot of the big money is flowing into these other coins that are brand new, that the millionaires and billionaires got early investments into, and that they can pump up and talk about, and and then as soon as the price starts moving up, boom, they start selling. Or there's an issue with the network. We saw this happening with SWI, and I would imagine we're going to see it continue to happen with SWI, because there's no reason SWI should be in the top 20 when there's other projects with real technologies that have been growing for years and are not just being pumped by celebrities and billionaires, right? Anyway, so I don't necessarily agree with everything Leshka is saying, but I want to understand what she's thinking so that I can kind of see, does this fit into my thesis? And so, yeah, we did have a meme coin season. Just because it wasn't Doge or Shiba or SafeMoon, well, we're not in 2021 anymore. We're in 2025, right? Stablecoin supply is surging. Over $12 billion in Tether has been minted in just the last 60 days. This is not exit liquidity. It's smart money getting ready to deploy. Market tops often happen after the inflows dry up and start reversing. Now, while this is true, I want you guys to be clear. What she's saying is somewhat true. Like we are seeing stablecoin volumes increasing, but they're not ready to deploy, quote unquote. They are deploying, or they've already deployed, or the stablecoin volume is increasing because people are selling. That's another potential, because if you think about it, if we're just seeing moves into stablecoins as prices are dropping, which they have been, right? Because they're not going parabolically high like everybody's anticipating. And we're seeing stablecoin volumes increasing, or market caps, I should say, or how much is minted. Well, that could indicate that people are selling their coins. That's why the price is not really going up, because there's a lot of sell pressure, and they're converting it into stablecoins. And yeah, they're probably sitting on the side waiting to deploy. But what are they waiting for? They're not waiting for a parabolic run. They're waiting for a big dip, right? This is a one that I see on social all the time. Coinbase isn't even in the App Store's top 50 right now. In 2021, it hit number 1, a perfect indicator of peak retail FOMO. While this was true in 2021, I'm seeing a lot of influencers on social media talking about, oh, well, Coinbase is not number 1 in the App Store. It's like, well, Coinbase is not the only crypto exchange, right? And it's definitely not the only regulated crypto exchange. And it's not under any issues with potential SEC like we saw with Binance and FTX and all these other companies that were not based in the US. There's other options now. And so while I agree with what Lesh is saying, that this could be an indicator that we are towards the top, I don't necessarily know that we are going to see this occurring, especially if this is not a retail cycle, if this is just an institutional inflow cycle, which it seems that's what it is. And she said, no one's quitting their jobs to go full crypto right now. Back in 2021, resignation tweets were everywhere. Today, people are still hesitant to buy in. That's not a market top. It's the very start of what's coming. Now, again, let's be clear. Leshka and myself, based on her own tweets, we're aligned with the timeline of this cycle, but I'm not necessarily aligned with her indicators. This one, it is a very good indicator, but I want you guys to remember back in 2021, a lot of people were resigning because they were, home during the pandemic. They maybe had other jobs. They were probably trading the crypto markets. The crypto markets in 2020 were doing very well. The stock market was doing very well. And so there was so much liquidity in 2021 that, yes, people felt very rich in 2020 into 2021. That in 2021, a lot of people felt rich and started buying things, but they were buying at the top of the market, right? Buying houses, top of the market, buying cars, top of the market. And so that continued, and people basically went broke, or they are stuck in these homes that they thought, oh, I'm going to keep making this money for years and years and years in the crypto markets because we're never going to go into a bear market. And then they did, and they probably are underwater or had to liquidate or lost all their money because they were buying at the top of the market things outside of crypto, maybe. So I do kind of agree with this in some sense, but I am seeing people quitting their jobs and going full crypto. And I mean, go look in the irresponsibly long MSTR group. Leshka is probably not watching my video, but I would definitely recommend that to her. I would also recommend her looking up MSTY, these yield-bearing yield max ETFs, because people are literally, like guys, literally, they're cashing out their 401k and putting it into MSTY, which is giving dividends, but there is a lot of negative side to all those dividends. One, you're being taxed on it. Two, the NAV erosion of the underlying security, which is MSTY. And if we rotate into a bear market, you lose all that volatility to the upside. And therefore, the demand for the product goes down, and therefore the dividends can go down. So it could take not just 1 year to recoup your original investment. It could take many years. And a lot of people are not really anticipating that, but they're cashing out their 401k and putting it in this very, very highly leveraged, risky dividend paying stock, which is paying right now. But if we rotate into a bear market, it's really sad. It's really sad. Anyway, we have a lot more to get into, so let me continue. The media isn't running headlines about $10 million Bitcoin yet. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I've been covering this on my channel. I've been showing you videos from Bloomberg, from CNBC. But again, these could be signals, right? If we're not at the top right now, when we will be, right? And so she goes on and on. She said, summary, don't sell when retail is quiet. Don't fade the market where altcoins haven't even started moving. You don't call a top when every indicator screams early. This is a season of accumulation, not distribution. She said, at the end of April, I believe the bull run might be over. That assumption was based on the disconnect between major developments and the weak response from retail investors. But guys, that's continued, right? Retail investors, she even just said, haven't come back into the market. And so again, in my view, we are in the final stages of the bull market. Doesn't mean that we're not going higher, and it doesn't mean, I'm not really putting a timeline on this. I do think that we're close. And I do think that Leshka, her other analysis of, I think it was July being the top of the market, I think this is highly likely going to be the scenario. And I would definitely recommend keeping an eye on these dates. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying keep an eye. And Kevin O'Leary is even saying all the crypto cowboys are gone, saying the sector is safe now and is backing stable coins. Okay. So I want you to remember when he said Terra Luna was safe and FTX was safe and all these other companies were safe, right? And I'm not saying Kevin knew that they weren't, but just because a billionaire is saying, yeah, crypto's safe now, all the cowboys are gone, it's like, well, not really, because there's still going to be collapses. There's still going to be issues. And we're already seeing those cracks. I mean, Jamie Dimon is saying there's going to be issues in the bond market, and this is going to affect the rest of the markets altogether. We have Raoul Pal going out there and saying, we have an extended cycle. We'll go into Q1 or Q2 of 2026. That will be the top of the market, even though every indicator is showing we are very close to the top of the market. And we are in euphoria mode. I mean, if you saw the Bitcoin conference, if you see everybody talking about Raoul Pal's prediction of extended cycle and the euphoria, everybody's so excited about that, that is top indicator. But there are other collapses going on that a lot of people don't even know about. I just heard about this because of the XRP conference in Vegas. But basically, investors are mobilizing to, quote, free Linkto amid concerns of mismanagement. So basically, from my understanding, I think I had an article up about this. Maybe not. I thought I did. But basically, Linkto was a platform to invest in companies. It says Linkto, a leading financial technology platform providing accredited investors access to late-stage, privately held companies, today confirmed the underlying shares of the platform companies are secure. So effectively, this company, like, you can early invest in companies that are not publicly traded. And from my understanding, a lot of people invested in Ripple this way. And from my understanding, Linkto investors account for about 3% of ownership of Ripple if they IPO or something like that. It's very hard to follow this because nobody's really reporting on it, except for the people who had their money on the platform. And effectively, what they've been saying, the people who had their money on this platform, is that they have not been able to get their money off of the platform, and they don't know if their investments are safe. So this user said, let's take a look at the narrative spinning from shillfluencers fighting the current management of Link2. They're claiming the platform was sound until new management sabotaged it. And so effectively, like, this has been going on, I think, since February, where people couldn't access the platform. So again, Terra Luna collapsed in the beginning of the year in 2021 or 2022. In the middle of that year, we started to see the BlockFi, Celsius, Voyager, 3 Arrows Capital, all the other companies starting to go down. And then at the end of the year, we had FTX. But what they tried to do is minimize the impact on the rest of the market when those things were happening. So this happened in February. Now it's June, and we're just starting to hear about some of this. So concerned customers of the platform, Link2, have joined together to demand answers from the tech company's new management, which has suspended operation and frozen user accounts since February. The founder of this newly formed advocacy group said the recent actions taken by Link2's management raised serious concerns. User accounts have been frozen since February 27th. The company's operating reserves have been drained, and the platform has effectively ceased normal operations. At best, this is a result of a series of misguided and bad decisions. At worst, it represents an intentional effort to drive the platform into insolvency. Renowned blockchain and AI visionary Steven Nairoff has joined the effort, lending both strategic guidance and legal firepower to the growing movement, saying when platforms mishandle investor trust, it's not just bad business, it undermines the future of DeFi. And so again, it says right here, more than 11,000 Link2 customers collectively hold approximately 3% equity in Ripple Labs. So 11,000 customers just with Ripple. And so this got brought up at the recent XRP conference. And so to me, based on what I've seen, they changed the executive leadership in the last few months. It seems like whatever this Link2 platform is or was, did have, probably was insolvent. And they brought the new leadership in because they realized they probably, and again, this is just my assumption from the limited facts that I've seen here. And this conversation that they had, this is John Deaton, an XRP advocate, and the new, I think, CEO of Link2. And yes, CEO. And effectively, he's saying, like, if you invested in a company on the platform, your shares are protected. It's still there. And so they're trying to make sure investors feel confident. But here's the deal. I mean, to me, it seems like they probably reported to regulators they were insolvent. The regulators went in and said, there's way too many customers for us to let them go insolvent. Install the new leadership team to kind of get things in order and figure out what they need to do to make customers whole without telling them, like, we're broke. And they're probably working with regulators to fix it. That's what it seems like. And so I hope the customers get their money back, because this could be not great, right? Somebody even wrote on XRP's forum on Reddit the other day, about 2 weeks ago. Does anyone know what's going on with Link2? Are our investments safe? If Link2 folds, are our shares safe, or will they be gone? And so they're saying that it's safe, right? The company says that it's safe. Whether it is or isn't, I don't know. But this is just, to me, it's an indicator, right? Like, wait, did a company actually go under that was about investing in a crypto? And if they did, right, how many other companies are like this? There's a lot of companies that we don't talk about on this channel, that they have these weird business models for investing, crypto IRAs that are not from an actual regulated financial firm, buying tokenized pieces of art, right? Like, how much money are they actually making for their customers? And so this leads to the question that, is your investment safe, right? And this is where diversification comes in, understanding the market cycles come in, understanding don't FOMO into the market and don't FOMO out of the market, but have a strategy and have a thesis, be well diversified in many different assets, and understand that there may be things out of your control or out of your even concept of understanding that it could occur in these markets that could drop your entire investment to zero overnight. And there's nothing you can do about it. And yes, there's so much risk. Keeping your crypto on an exchange, not keeping your crypto on an exchange, losing your private keys, micro sailor having to liquidate their Bitcoin, right? What is this going to do in causing fear for the rest of the market? And so we have to keep that in mind. In my view, it seems like the collapses are already occurring and may have already occurred, right? And so if a Link 2 was the first one, that means there are probably going to be more. Same thing that we saw in the previous cycles. And so the more that we see, and by the way, I mean, it's not just companies going under, it's also projects getting hacked or exploited or money drained. And we just saw that happening with SWE the other day. And then SWE basically reversed the transactions or something like that for millions of the coin. How is the coin in the top 11, right? The top 10 if you take out all the stable coins. This coin is in the top 10, and they've already had one hack, and it's a brand new blockchain that nobody's really using yet, besides billionaires and bots. And so these are the indicators that things have gotten a little euphoric and that we may already be at the top. But that euphoric top that everybody's waiting for, it may not look parabolic. We may not get banana zone. And some would argue that we already have the banana zone from $15,000 Bitcoin to where we are now, over $100,000 over the course of the last few years. I mean, if you zoom out, this kind of does look parabolic. Parabolic here, double top there, triple top technically. And so are we at the end of the cycle? Well, only time will tell. But, I think positioning portfolios for that potential, especially when Jamie Dimon, he's not saying if, he's saying it's going to happen. The bond market is going to crack. We'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts down below on everything we discussed in today's video. Let me know how you feel about the markets. Do you think that we're at the top? Do you think that we're not at the top? Let me know down below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. If you want to help support the channel financially, click the join button. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next video. Invest responsibly and crypto on.